2 Chronicles chapter 20, we see that King Jehoshaphat is completely panicked and terrified. He has a vast army marching towards the nation. And in his panic and desperate plea for deliverance, he calls a huge prayer meeting for the people all over the nation. And in that prayer meeting, he prays these words. And we can find them in verses 9 to 12 in 2 Chronicles chapter 20. King Jehoshaphat says, "We can cry out to you to save us, and you will hear us and rescue us." And in verse 12, "We are powerless against this mighty army that is about to attack us. We do not know what to do, but we are looking to you for help." I don't know if you've ever felt similar to King Jehoshaphat, feeling desperation for reprieve and deliverance, perhaps from sickness or disease and suffering, or even depression and anxiety, or even strongholds of sin that don't seem to budge. But the beautiful thing that, like God delivered and answered King Jehoshaphat, I believe he wants to do the same for you. And these were God's words to the king after his desperate prayer and plea. And we find God's response in verses 15 to 17. God says, "Do not be afraid. Don't be discouraged by this mighty army, for the battle, it's not yours, it's God." And then he says in verse 17, "But you will not even need to fight. Take your positions, then stand still and watch the Lord's victory. He is with you." I love that God says here to stay still. It reminds me of the passage, "Be still and know that I am God in the middle of the storm and your need for deliverance." And God's words here are take your positions. And in taking your positions, then you will see the Lord's victory. Well, what was the position that King Jehoshaphat and his army took? The position that they took we can find in verse 21. It says, "The king appointed singers to walk ahead of the army, singing to the Lord and praising him for his holy splendor." And this is what they sang: "Give thanks to the Lord, his faithful love endures forever." And what is absolutely incredible to me is that in verse 22, it says, "At that very moment that they began to sing and give praises to the Lord, the battle was won. The victory was theirs." And I think this teaches us something so significant, is that when we are in desperate need of deliverance, God says, "Be still and take your position. Take your position of praise and declaration and thanks of who I am." Declaration of who God is found in the Word of God. We can use the Word of God and declare who He is over our circumstances. It makes sense when we look at Ephesians chapter 6, where it says, "In the armor of God, it is the Word of God that is the sword against the enemy." So I want to encourage you, in your need of deliverance, to take your position, take your sword, and see the Lord fight for you and bring deliverance in the middle of your battle.